Hey guys, Chris here. Tonight we have 4 stories that were sent in by viewers of this channel. And each of them is very frightening and very creepy. That's next. Okay guys, I am in the Sierra Nevada once again. Pretty thick forest that I'm in tonight. It's a little creepy tonight. No, it's a lot of creepy. And the sun is going down really fast on me. It is late September, so that's the way it is. And for tonight's beer, we have Rogue Sasquatch Hazy India Pale Ale. Check that out. That is a creepy looking beer to go along with our setting here. I got a Rogue Creek over here that I put the beer in to cool it down. I'm just going to drink out the can tonight. Hazy India Pale Ale. There you go. Cheers. Okay, so I switched to my cup. Love the cup, and I couldn't part with it. So our first story comes to us from Tony. Back in 1966, Tony was 7 years old, and he was playing with his good friend Petey. They were about 2 blocks away from Petey's house, having a good time, hanging out, when up rolls Doug on his bicycle, and this is Tony's 10-year-old cousin. And both Petey and Tony were surprised because they had told no one where they were. And so Tony says, "Hi, how did you find us here?" And Doug says, "The old woman wearing the blue dress told me exactly where you were." And Tony and Petey look at each other, then they look back at Doug and they say, "What old woman?" And Doug says, "The old woman that answered the door at Petey's house." And then Tony says, "There's nobody at Petey's house. I've been hanging out with Petey all day and we've been outside and his mom is at work." And Doug says, "Well, there was an old woman wearing a blue dress with long white hair was who told me." Both Petey and Tony look at each other and they have this chill come over them because Petey's grandmother had died 2 days earlier and she was buried in that blue dress. That's our story from Tony. Pretty creepy. Okay, so this next story is from Carrie. Back in 1977, Carrie was 7 years old. Interesting. The boys in the earlier story were 7 years old. Lots of sevens going on here. And her family wanted to do a camping trip and meet up with their relatives and have a mini family reunion. And they were going to meet in the Sierra Nevada mountains, the mountains I'm in tonight. They were going to meet in the southern end in the Sierra National Forest. They packed the station wagon with the tent, cooler, camp stove, lantern, all the normal stuff that you need. And they met their cousins and relatives in this campground in the Southern Sierra. Put up the tent, set everything up, kids went out and played, had dinner, had a campfire. It was a beautiful night, stars came out, the moon was even out, and it was time to go to bed. They had a great day, finished everything, it's time to go to bed. The dad, the uncle, and some of the cousins slept in the tent. Carrie and her mom slept in the back of the station wagon. Rolled out the sleeping bags, had the pillows out. You know, you can flat these things down. It's almost like these station wagons were like an early SUV, right? Gate in the back, hatch them down, flatten them down. They go to bed, say goodnight. Carrie's laying next to her mom. Somewhere in the middle of the night, Carrie wakes up because she heard It sounded like someone messing with their stuff. Over by the picnic table, pots and pans, cooler, stove, things like that are over there. And she's laying there in the back of the station wagon, and she's looking out through the back door, the window of the station wagon. And up walks this large, huge silhouette, this shape that had this long face and these dark, piercing eyes, is what she said. And it was scanning back and forth between her and her mom while they're laying there. And she felt so vulnerable laying there. And she was frozen with fear. Her mom is sound asleep, and she had just enough in her to say, "Mom, Mom, Mom, something's outside." Her mom finally wakes up, and right away her mom says, "Carrie, do not look at it, and get in your sleeping bag." Carrie listens, she goes in her sleeping bag, pulls the covers on, and she can hear her mom screaming because this thing is right on the other side of the glass of their station wagon. This thing starts pressing down in the bumper, up and down, up and down, up and down. They can feel it going up and down like that. Springs on the vehicle are bouncing. The mom is screaming, and then this thing picks up the back bumper and just picks it up and goes back and forth, shaking it back and forth with Carrie and her mom inside. And they're being flung back and forth, and the books are flying, and her shoes and the flashlight and all their stuff, and they're being flung back and forth. And Carrie's mom is screaming for her dad. And this thing finally just drops the vehicle, they can feel it bounce, and then it runs off into the darkness, into the forest. Right after that, Carrie's dad comes running around the side of the station wagon, opens up the back gate, and say, "What's wrong? What's going on? You guys okay?" And they were like, oh my gosh. And they're trying to catch up with what the heck just happened. And they explained to him what happened. And he listened, but he didn't quite understand what they really saw. And so he said, well, it was probably a bear or something. And Carrie was like, as well, no, it was not a bear. A bear cannot pick up a vehicle and shake it like that, back and forth. Carrie wrote me in an email, and she told me this. She said, there is no way a bear could pick up the back of a car and shake it side to side. Also, I stared this thing in the face. That was no bear. No one, not even my mom and I, ever spoke of this ever again. I've told some people in my life, and I can tell they don't believe me. Even my husband doesn't. But I know what I saw, and no one can tell me the difference. Even typing this out has me recalling the fear that I felt that night. That is from Carrie from 1977. Okay, so this next story comes to us from David. David is a retired police officer, and back in the 90s, David was a patrolman in Texas. He got a call of a murder of an old woman that was actually assaulted as well. It was a horrible crime scene, just terrible. Somebody had broken into the back of this woman's house, crawled through the window, and killed her in her own kitchen. That's where they found the body. About 3 weeks later, David got a call for a burglary in progress. Turns out it was the same neighborhood where this murder occurred, but it was on a different street. Comes down the street, he pulls up, and there were several people there waiting to talk to him. They said that they were in the backyard and they heard talking from the house behind them. In the house. And they said the house was vacant. And they also said there was recently a murder in this house. And right then, David realized it was the same house. He had just did the call on the next street over, and it was in the backyard. And they were looking at the house when they were talking. They said they heard some noises in the house, and then some talking, And one of the windows, they saw a curtain get pulled back like someone was watching them. The talking got quiet. The curtain held open for several seconds, and then it dropped like somebody dropped it, and it swung back into place. The voices continued, and all the witnesses heard laughing. Right then, the lights blinked off and on 2 or 3 times, as if these suspects were mocking the witnesses that were outside. David and another patrolman went over to the house, and they found that the front and back door were locked. They were able to get in and search the house. They searched the entire house, and they found nothing. Upstairs, downstairs, in the basement. It was really eerie. There was still blood on the floor in the kitchen where the old lady had died. To this day, the case has never been solved, and David says he's never gotten over it. That is a creepy story from David. Story number 4. This comes from Melissa. Back in the 90s, Melissa was living in northern Michigan. Not upper Michigan, just the northern Michigan, and above that's upper Michigan. In a small town called Atlanta, Michigan. She was coming home from work one night, driving down the highway, and she decided to take a shortcut on this dirt road that she knew that would get her through and over to her house. Turns off this road, and then the road kind of curves back and kind of parallels the main highway. And through the trees, she could look through and see the highway. But in between the dirt road and the highway was this cedar swamp. And the light was shining through, the sun's kind of going down, and everything was in silhouette in this swamp. And she's driving along on this dirt road. It's kind of bumpy. She's got a 1990 Geo Tracker. It's kind of a Jeep style SUV with a soft-sided top on it. She catches some movement out of her peripheral vision, thinking that's maybe a horse that got loose and it's just running through this swamp. And it was the only thing large enough and fast enough for what this movement was doing that she could think of. So Carrie's driving along on this bumpy dirt road, going about 15. And she looks again, and off to her side, she sees this person running in the cedar swamp. And this person is about eye level with her, the same height that she is sitting in her 1990 Geo Tracker. This person's pumping his fist, running about 15 miles an hour, covered in hair. Her brain's trying to process what she's really looking at. Her first thought is, how is this person running in this swamp with the water and the downed trees and the brush? And she gets scared, and she steps on the gas, and she's going about 30 now, and this person is keeping up with her. And she looks ahead, and she can see the road curving to her right, and she can see there's going to be like a collision course, and who knows what this person is up to. She's thinking, whoever's pacing my vehicle has got, and she said, nefarious ideas. And so she's really concerned. So she's looking at the road, looking at this thing running, looking at the road, looking at this thing running. She looks at the road again, and one last time she looks, and this thing is now gone. It's disappeared. Nowhere to be seen. She wasn't sure what to think of it. She keeps driving. She's happy it's gone. Keeps driving home. And about 2 days later, she comes back because she couldn't stop thinking about it. She's like, what the heck was that? She gets out of her car. She goes down, and she can see the ditch actually drops down a couple, 3 feet. And she realizes that whatever this thing was that was running in this ditch, in this swamp, had to be about 7.5 to 8 feet tall to be eye level with her in her Jeep on the road. After realizing this, she was shocked and creeped out. Bigfoot had not entered her mind because she said back in the 90s, this was not a topic that people really talked about, not like it is now. And it took her some time to put two and two together and realize this had to be a Sasquatch. And looking back at it after all these years, she's thinking that when it just disappeared, that it probably suddenly stopped and went behind a tree. Maybe it laid down. Maybe it was protecting its young. She had no idea. But she knows what she saw that day back in 1990. Wow, what a crazy story. And I am in a dark, creepy forest, and it is very dark, you guys. I gotta say, I'm a little creeped out tonight. I'm okay. I don't have a long way to go, but I do got to pack up and get out of here. So if you guys like stories about the strange, unexplained, and things that go bump in the night, like tonight, please like and subscribe and all that fun. You guys know what to do. And I really appreciate your comments and hanging out with you guys, talking about scary things. It's fun. So, all right, we will see you on the next one, and I better get out of here. So, all right, keep hiking.